This is the Black Creative Handbook with your host, Cassandra Lauren Gordon. Welcome back. And I'm here with
Greg Lacy.
Yay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Greg.
I am the host of the Speak My Piece podcast, a weekly podcast series that I host, just speaking about the experience of Black people and detailing the stories that I feel like don't get shared enough or don't get talked about by the right people. I am a college graduate from St. John's University, majored in communications, and I am a digital media planner, born and raised in Compton, California.
Oh, I missed that. Where in California?
Compton.
Compton. Okay, I hear it. Okay, so me and my American geography, so it's in California. Is it near San Francisco?
So San Francisco is 8 hours away. So San Francisco is Northern California. I mean,
no, it's near LA side. Sorry.
Yes.
I was thinking about something different. Sorry, LA side. Sorry.
Yeah.
My geography is wrong then.
It's right near LA. So yeah. A lot of people internationally, if I go international or I go somewhere, people don't know California too much. I normally say, I'm from LA because it's easier, but I specifically say Compton because that's exactly where I'm from. And so I like to have pride in the city I'm from, but on a more international term, it's LA.
So NWA is from there?
Yeah. Right? Kendrick Lamar,
Kendrick Lamar,
Venus and Serena.
I was about to say Serena Williams and Venus. I'm about to say that. See, that's my limited note of Compton, but and then you have not to put any negative associations. People talk about, the two different sides. If you know what I'm talking about. Great. I don't want to put, you know what I mean. So yeah cool. The only place I've been in California was San Diego and San Francisco. So I wanted to go to LA and Compton, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
So
if you've seen San Diego, you've definitely had experience because I personally, don't tell anyone I said it, but San Diego is probably the best city in California.
Why do you say that? It's
just like I lived there for 3 years. And it's just beautiful. Like the weather all year round is great. The culture of it, like it's a like a lot of people when they talk about like Los Angeles and New York, and they call it like a melting pot of like different cultures and different races and things like that. San Diego is that as well, but San Diego is like so rich in its history, especially like downtown San Diego and things like that. Like they try to like as much as possible to have pride in the culture that built San Diego, but it's just a beautiful city, honestly. And it's like if I had to pick anywhere in California to live for the rest of my life, it definitely would be San Diego.
Okay. I wish I spent more time there now. I think I didn't appreciate it when I was there. All I remembered, I went to the zoo. I wanted to see the panda, and the panda wouldn't come out. I was like, all I wanted to see was this panda, and he was sick. How dare this panda? I paid my money to see this panda. He didn't come out. And what did the Padres, the Padres.
Yep.
The baseball team. So, as an English person, when you watch American TV, right, and when they're swinging, and you think it's a quick match, it's a quick game, but it was long. I didn't know baseball was that long.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I know this is your culture, but I was like, this is not like in the movies, and they don't actually hit the ball. I was like, what's going on? In the movies, they go in real life, it's like a picnic, and no one's hitting the ball.
Listen,
and they're getting paid to not hit a ball. Okay.
Exactly. I played baseball growing up, from child to teenage years. But I do not watch baseball. I don't watch baseball until like the championships and the playoffs start because it's boring and it's so many games and the games are so long that I don't have the mental capacity to sit there and watch those games for that long. But the experience of like going to a game, if you don't get there from the start, like if you get there like maybe around like the second and third inning and you stay through the end, then it's fun. It's a fun experience. But if you are there from the beginning until the end, you probably get bored. But the experience in itself and being in the ballpark and eating the food, and if you like beers and drinking a beer, is fun.
You can't go solo. So if anyone's going to visit, don't go to a baseball game solo like I did, because I didn't get the experience. Like I think it's a good time to hang out with your friends, and for 3 hours or so, it's a good time. Yeah. Sorry about that. God, you just took me to San Diego when I went. So sorry about that. Okay, cool. So let's get into it. So we'll start with the quick fire questions. Are you an Apple person or are you an Android person?
Oh, that is a difficult question. So phone-wise, I am Android. I will stay with my Galaxy and I won't switch. But everything else, I love Apple. Like I'm recording on a MacBook. I have an iPad sitting right next to me. and I have Apple TV in my living room. So if it's phone, then it's definitely Android, but anything else, I love Apple. I just don't like iPhones. Like iPhones are too simple for me for whatever reason. I just can't get with it.
Okay, honest answer. I'm an Apple girl. Well, apart from my PC. Hopefully I get some Apple money soon. Okay, Netflix or Amazon Prime?
Netflix.
Why? Why do you like Netflix?
I feel like I had Netflix for so long that it's just like something that I'm used to. So it's like, oh, I need something to watch. If it's not me watching TV, just click on Netflix. But Amazon Prime have been doing their best as far as like getting new original stuff and things like that. But I think I've been ingrained. Like I think I started my Netflix probably like a decade ago. And so it's just like 10 years history of between me and Netflix. Even though I hate that they continue to raise their prices, I'd still revert to Netflix.
I will be on my people's account as long as I can. I am not. If I've got to do I think in England I've got five accounts. I'm like, I'm not letting go. Please continue. They are my patrons. Please continue to pay for your Netflix account. Because Netflix is whatever it is. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Okay, so do you like? I don't want to give lots of advertising to brands. But next thing what came to myself was Pepsi or CocaCola. Do you like which one?
So I don't drink soda, but I want to say Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola is a parent brand, right? So I think there's everything that Coca-Cola has to offer. I would say Coca-Cola, but I don't know if I have a preference between the two. I haven't exactly been able to detail the difference between the two. So it's like when I did drink soda, if I wanted one of those two, like I'll be satisfied with either or. But I know some people are very specific, like, no, give me a Coke. Oh no, give me a Pepsi. I'm not that person.
I hear you. I'm not a soda person either. Okay, great. So I was going to ask you as well, do you like toast or cereal?
Ooh. Let's go with toast. I think I go with toast because I don't eat toast often. So when I do eat toast, it's like, especially when it's a well done toast and the butter is on there is perfect. I think that it's definitely a great experience and I get to enjoy it more because I don't eat it often. With cereal, it's like eat cereal every weekend. And so like I'm kind of used to it. And while I love it, it's just like I'm used to it. So it's not an experience like, oh, this is so great. So I think I got to go with toast because of how often I don't, or how rarely I eat toast.
Okay. Drake or Kanye?
Neither.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Because I know that you got a podcast episode talking about Kanye West. Yeah.
I'm not that big of a Drake fan. I like Drake. I like Drake music, but I feel like in America it's like either you're the biggest Drake fan or you're not. And so I just lean on just okay, if I'm not a Drake fan because I'm not the biggest Drake fan, but I was a big Kanye fan. But if you listen to the last episode of my podcast, you understand why I'm not supporting Kanye right now. So I think it's neither at the moment.
But do you watch his? Sorry, I might have not caught all of the. But did you watch his documentary?
I haven't, but that is what I'm doing tonight because I know it's 2 episodes, I believe, so far. So I'm going to binge those 2 episodes.
Okay. I wish you watched it. I would have talked to you about it because he's such a conflict not to go. Talking to people who
no, we can talk about it. I mean, I feel like a lot of the stuff that's in there, we like if you're a fan of him, you know about it because he's been so open about his upcoming. And so like I know some of the things that's included in there, but also like we live in a digital age. So when things are released on a documentary, social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they're talking about it. So I definitely seen clips and I've seen the conversations that's been happening that's coming out of the documentary. So we may be able to talk about it.
It's just a hustle. I mean, I say this to some because half of the people who listen to the podcast are American. So, and I feel sometimes I make a joke like I'm like an American trapped in an English body, and because it's just like the hustle. The hustle is just like, wow, this guy was in the room with like Damien Dash and Jay-Z, and they don't rate him. They saw him as a producer. And I'm not fanning over Kanye as the person, and it's hard, like in your podcast, separating the artist from the art. And he's one of those conflicting like figures. I'm just like, oh man, does my head in. But at the same time, like, what I cannot, for what tangible things he's done, tangible things.
Yes.
I can't
So now you understand my dilemma.
I can't deny some of it. I can't deny it.
Yeah.
I can't. I have to give him some respect. But for other things he's done, I'm just like,
Why?
I can't. And I'm trying to figure out, why does he do it? He's really good. Looking at his documentary, he's really good at getting buzz and controversy. So I'm thinking, is he doing all of the stupid stuff, what I think stupid stuff, just for getting into the next level strategically? Or does he really mean it? And I'm trying to work it out, because in my head, I want to be the optimist and say, he does his outrageous things, said outrageous things, exploit sometimes the Black community loyalty for granted, doing his silly stuff. But is he doing that because he knows how media works? He knows what's going to get into the press, you know? But at what cost?
Exactly.
So yeah.
So you understand my dilemma. It's like, I'm such a big fan of him because like even before the documentary, like I'm a big fan of Kanye West. So like I've known his story. He's been vocal about his story. He detailed the story. Like he knew what he was destined for. Someone was recording his entire journey. So like if you have somebody recording your journey, you know that you're going to be destined for greatness, because nobody is going to have someone dedicated to recording their journey if they don't know that they're going to make it. So it's because of that, it's like I'm always going to be a fan of him. But it's just like, personally, it's like, you make some decisions and choices that I just, as a person, my integrity just will like not allow me to support you. And you can do whatever you want, and I'm gonna hold on to whatever memories I have with your everything prior to all this. But it's just like, you got to cut some of that stuff out, because otherwise I feel like I just can't support it. But I'm still going to be a fan of who you were prior to all this. But it's just like, what you got going on, I just can't stand with it.
It's a hard debate separating the artist and the art, man.
Yeah.
It's just as we digress, I'm sure he's making his billions, so let him make his billions with the people and the Kardashians and whatever that kind of world when he's in. Okay, so being a podcaster, I think people just say, oh, you just talk. And what I read about your podcast, you can hold a conversation for an hour. Plus, I'm like, when I do solo episodes, I'm dead after 10 minutes. I'm trying. I mean, I can do speeches. Like I used to do a lot of public speaking before COVID. So speaking to a crowd is not a problem. But when you just you and the mic and the camera, or just the audio, you can hold, like, it's not filler stuff what you're saying. So how do you get into the process of preparing for your podcast and for your content?
So my process changes time to time, but I feel like the basis of it is the same. But because it's a weekly thing, I just like, for the most part, like my habits, I watch the news in the morning before I start my work day. I watch the news to see what's going on in the world, but I'm also on social media, so I see different things that are going on. So I'll record a podcast on a certain day and release it. And so from that time that I record it, I'm just paying attention to everything that's going on. And sometimes there are stories that, stick out to me. Sometimes there are stories that don't stick out to me. And I just want to delve deeper into finding that information. And so as I'm coming across all the information, because I mean, again, we live in a digital age. So we're being fed information like every single second, whether you want it or not, it's been fed to us. And so what I do is just like, okay, what do I do with this information? Okay, now I can include this in this episode. Sometimes I have episodes planned out as far as like around certain things, but like with those longer episodes that are like an hour long, it's just me detailing the different stories that I felt that stuck out to me during that week, and me providing my takes on those things. So I've gotten away from recording those hour-long episodes because I feel like, me personally, if somebody was recording a podcast for an hour, I don't want to listen to them. And so I don't want to have people stuck within an hour listening to my podcast, so I condensed it more. I mean, I condensed it to less, to half of that. But when I was recording those hour-long episodes, it's literally just me speaking about those things that I jotted down during the week. And a lot of times I felt like I didn't even have enough time to record it. I mean, have enough time to delve into those topics. So it was like some of those episodes probably could have been an hour and a half to 2 hours long, but for the sake of people listening to one voice for an hour, I have to cut this shorter.
Cool, thank you for that. So you just, yeah, like a journalist, aren't you? You just we're looking towards your taste. You kind of put it, and then you put it into another format. So thank you for saying that. So obviously, we connect on this podcast. So I have an idea about the audience who's going to listen to this is going to vibe with you. But why, with 10 million podcasts in the world, even this one, like, why should someone listen to Speak My Peace podcast?
I think the difference between my podcast and a lot of podcasts is that it's just unapologetically Black in the sense of the stories that I'm sharing. I think that, again, going back into the information that we're fed a lot of information on a lot of different things. And I think one thing that has kept me going in my podcast is that we see certain stories that are covered by certain people who are not of a certain culture or who does not have a lot of experience in certain things. And I don't want to big myself up to say that, I have more experience than other people, but I think I've been through enough. And I think I've had enough conversations and had enough relationships with certain people to understand that, these stories or these accounts for these certain type of stories, they're not being shared. And so I think when you get the Speak One Piece podcast, people tune in to hear an account of those stories and hear the side of those stories that you won't really hear from anywhere else, because it's not doctored, it's not, a big company behind me tailoring me to speak about certain things or to not speak about certain things. I'm speaking freely about whatever I want to speak about, and it's all just for my opinion. It's not the majority of it is fact-based because it's based off of things that actually happen, but it's just my opinion and my takes on things that I've seen throughout the week or throughout the year.
Understood. It's interesting what you said about other people talking or filtering culture, because so if we're not talking about like individual like YouTubers or content creators, these companies or media companies are owned not by the culture or Black people, or I have this, I don't want to get in a big debate, but when you was talking, I thought about Vlad TV, and I thought, to me, this is a personal thing, he's very problematic to me for so much different reasons. But I hate it. I don't hate him, I don't know. But he gets me. Because you know why he gets me? Because he has someone how I like and I want to know. Right?
Yep.
And I'm like, you got me. You got me,
yeah.
Vlad. You got me. And then I'm thinking, and I'm mad because A, I should have boycotted. 2, why don't these Black artists or entertainers go to another platform?
Exactly.
Why? And they just exclusively go to him, and I'm just like, no. And
exactly.
It's just I don't know what to do. I need to condition myself. Like, even though there's an artist or someone I really like for instance, like Omarion, like from BTK, yeah, he only went on Vlad to talk about his business. He didn't go anywhere else. I'm like, I want to know what happened with Omarion, right?
Yeah.
I'll go on there. I'm like,
here I am.
Why do you do it, Vlad? Why? You got me. Or there'd be like, sorry, just off topic, there'd be someone like, some problematic, someone like, or someone could be seen as problematic, like Tasha K. I'm like, this woman says stuff that she's not supposed to say. I'm not into this reality TV life, but she has the odd guest. And I'm just like, and what I'm trying to say to you is just like, how do you stand your ground of being unapologetically Black when it's not in vogue? How do you keep on having that consistency? Now it's not sexy anymore.
I think it's just like, I think it's in my DNA, like, to just take the listeners, people who don't know me, back. Like, this is something that like I've been interested in this in my entire life. Like Malcolm X, I always say Malcolm X is one of my biggest heroes. Just like his story is probably one of the most interesting stories I've ever read or heard of. And it goes back into when I was 10 years old, in Compton. We used to have, or the school I used to go to, we used to have parades for Black History Month. And one year, I think I was either in 4th grade or 5th grade, but we had to perform Fight the Power by Public Enemy. And originally I was supposed to be one of the backup dancers for the performance, but the person who was supposed to be the rapper just like couldn't memorize the lyrics for whatever reason. And somehow I got propelled into the position to be the rapper performing a song. And so I had to memorize the lyrics, learned it like in one day. And then as I learned those lyrics, like I started to really figure out like at first I learned the lyrics just to recite them. And then after that, like I started to figure out like what the lyrics was about. And it was just like something within that time changed me. But also my mother as well, like she made sure to, detail certain stories or detail certain experience for Black people when I was younger. Like I always think about, when I think about Emmett Till, I found out about Emmett Till because my mom used to get Jet magazines, and I saw, I forget what year it was, but I saw a story about Emmett Till in a Jet magazine, and I asked her about Emmett Till, or I asked her what it was, and she gave me just like the background of what happened to Emmett Till and everything that happened after that. And so I've always been a curious person. And so, not to get off topic, but to go back to your question about, what continues to compel me, is that like it's something in me that understands that my pride is an asset, that it's okay, that it's great to be a Black person and to share those experiences, because the world tells us the opposite so much, and they try to portray the opposite so much about the experience of a Black person. And so I think it's just like my duty to continue to let people know that, it's great to be Black, despite all the odds that are up against us, despite the roadblocks that are put in place against us, that we had to continue to thrive, and we have to understand where we come from, because we've overcame so much. And if we continue to have pride in ourselves and we continue to push these type of conversations, the sky is the limit for us.
Okay, I hear you. I'm going to ask you a very lazy question. And I say this lazy question because it's in me. And we have an international audience. So to you, this lazy question is, what does it mean to you to be Black? What does it mean?
Oh, it is, to be Black is to be powerful. And what I mean by powerful is just understanding the magnitude of your creativity, understanding the magnitude in your pride and community, wherever you are all across the world, and leaning into people that look like you, and collaborating with people that look like you and come from backgrounds that you come from. To be Black is to be great. Like we have so many examples of people in history who had so many obstacles set up against them, and throughout all that they strived and became better versions of themselves and provide a better opportunity for their family, but also provide inspiration for us. So I think to be Black is just to be powerful, to be creative, and just to be great. There's probably other adjectives that I'm missing, but those are the three that come up.
We get the summary.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what you said about Black. It could go across the diaspora. So how do you connect? Because I'll just give you a quick story. So when I visited America, when I was ages ago, where did I go? I went to different places, and I never felt, not saying I never felt Black, but I never felt race or the race stuff until, let me qualify this. I never felt openly, verbally, it's very overt about the differences, about different colors and race and stuff like that. In England, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sugarcoat England. England is bad. It's bad, but they do it subtly. They'll be like smiling in your face, but they'll do things underhand. And I rather, like when I'm in America, I know where I'm at. I see you, I know where I'm at. So what I'm saying is to you is like, how do you connect with other people of the African diaspora when just looking at like African American history and African American like matters?
I feel like the connection is like an unspoken language. So I'm gonna give you a domestic example, and I give you a kind of not really international, but kind of international example. One of my closest friends, I was born in California. One of my closest friends was raised in Georgia. One of the reasons why we're so close is because as we became friends, as we began to detail just like our different upbringings. Granted, I'm from California. California is all sunshine and peaches and all this great state. And he's from Georgia, which is where a lot of slavery happened. There's still a lot of segregation down there to this day. And he was born and raised there. And so we were raised on two different spectrums within this country, but our upbringings are still sort of the same. Like we were raised the same in a single parent household. The values that were instilled in us is kind of the same. We have certain interests like within sports and music that are the same. And so it's just like that unspoken language of like, here I am as this Black man raised in Compton, and here this Black man raised in Georgia. We had the same experience and we still have the same interests. Another example I want to give you is when I travel, like I like to travel to places where like I feel comfortable. And by comfortable, I mean, I see a lot of Black people. Like if the more black skin I see, even if it's not black skin, if it's brown skin, close enough, but the more people I see that look like me, I'm comfortable because at least I know they have some type of empathy for me if anything goes wrong. So my first international trip was to St. Thomas. In St. Thomas, there's a large group of Black people down there. And even though, here I am as someone coming from California, never been there before, I felt at home because the conversations I was having with the locals, it felt like I was talking to someone that I've known for 4 or 5 years. And I think this goes back into that unspoken language of we understand each other and we understand what's up against us and what we've been through. So even though, our experiences may be different, we still have the empathy for each other. And I think we don't get that same type of empathy when we deal with people from other races.
I hear you. I hear you. Can I gently challenge and put this out there, devil's advocate? So are you saying, I'm gently challenging, are you saying what the unspoken language between the African diaspora or connection with Black people is the trauma, what we are facing with our white counterparts? Or is there something more positive, what we are bonding over?
I think a large part of it is a trauma. I think that when you every day are faced up against something like that, you have to, every move or everything that you do in your life has to detail around, well, I don't want this to blow back on me. I don't want, to have some type of negative consequence because someone may not understand me. I think that is, but I think another positive thing about it is just like, when I speak about that unspoken thing, is just like, I don't know what it is that connects our souls, but there is something that like just makes us understand each other, even though we don't know each other. But there's something in us that just makes us understand each other. It's kind of hard for me to really explain that unspoken language, but it's something that connects us. So it's a positive and a negative. I think that really is what connects us.
Understood. So going back to your podcast, definitely seen a lot of Malcolm X. You do speak about trending-ish topics as well, because what we talk about, we were talking about Kanye West and stuff like that, and some of the convictions, what's been happening in African. It's just still happening. I don't want to make it sad, but this is reality. Like, this is reality. Yeah. People getting killed for no reason. And it's still happening, no matter how much black squares and how much celebrities do their spoken word pieces, it's just still happening. So I'm just thinking, like, I don't want to be like a meme, like self-care. How do you, I'm talking for myself, I'm asking for a friend, but talking about myself. How do you still be unapologetically Black, still talking about these things, we're talking about trauma, still be creative, and still keep it together? And you do this on a weekly basis. How?
Yeah. I think, I don't know if I'm keeping it together, but I'm trying my best. But I think one thing that continues to push me is that I think that when we hear stories and things that we can connect to, it inspires people. Like going back to Malcolm X, like Malcolm X died 30 years before I was even born. But just for me to discover him and hear his story, it inspires me to keep going now in 2022. And I don't have any relationship to this man. I don't have, I wasn't even born around the time that he was alive. I don't know anyone that knows him. But because of his story, I know two things. I know that one, that who I am as a Black person is definitely something to be prideful of. But two, that people can change. And that's the greatest aspect of his story to me, is that, he was living a certain life for a certain point, and through religion. And sometimes, people find that some people change through religion. Sometimes people just have a wake-up call that doesn't have to do with religion. But I found that, in his life, he changed who he was, and that made him a greater person. And so I'm a big fan of just comeback stories. And so for this man to be going down a certain road, a road that led him to prison, could have led to his death earlier than when he died, even though he died at, I feel like, a young age. He changed and shifted his whole life around to inspire others. So the main thing that keeps me going is that even if nobody listens to my podcast, there was somebody in this world that's going to press play, and they're going to hear me speaking about the things that I'm speaking about. They're going to understand that it's okay to be upfront about how you feel about how things affect you. I think a lot in the Black community, especially here in America, at least, it's like a common thing to, like, we don't speak about our feelings, especially for Black men. We don't speak about our feelings a lot. we want to speak about how things affect us. It's not the thing to do. And so I want to use my platform to let people know that, it's okay for us to do this. Like, we are not perfect. And so we should understand that, if we feel a certain way, if we have certain feelings or we have certain emotions, if we let those things out, it can help us be better people. And it's very healing. And so this podcast serves, I hate to be cliche, but it's like therapeutic for me in speaking about the things that I speak about, because I don't speak about it anywhere else. Like, I'm not active on social media. I don't like to like engage in back and forth. That's just like not who I am. And so because I don't have an outlet to speak about these things anywhere else, I have this weekly podcast and I can share my thoughts on certain things to people.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Just to be devil's advocate again. So when you said a different space, are you saying, remember, I'm not a man, so please, I'm seeing it from a different point of view. Mm-hmm. What about places like cliche, but like the barbershop, and when you're around your friends and stuff like that, you don't have an outlet to say things there? Or
so funny enough, I haven't got my hair cut in probably like 7 years. I started cutting my own hair. Fair enough. But the barbershop is that for a lot of people. I do talk about it with my friends, but the thing about talking about it with friends is you can have yes men with friends. So I can have, like, I don't have a lot of yes men with my friends, but the problem with me is that some of my friends, we have the same interests. So I feel a certain way about something. A lot of my friends probably feel the same way as well. And so that, like, it's good to speak to them about those things, but because we're not having conflicting opinions, it's not really serving as an outlet for me, because it's like I'm speaking about it and y'all speaking about it as well, but we feel the same way. So it's like, now it's comforting in a way, but I'm so troubled. Trouble is probably not the word to use, but I feel like I'm so troubled that I need that conflict. Like, I need to share my opinion, and I need you to be feeling the opposite way of how I feel, so I can tell you why you're wrong. Not even tell you why you're wrong, tell you more deeply, emotionally, why I feel this way about a certain topic, opposed to me telling you that I feel this way, and then you coming back and say, yeah, I feel this way as well, and then we're just bonding over that, which is great in a sense, but it's just like, it doesn't help me.
Yeah, you don't want to be in the echo chamber, like, okay, you think about this. Yeah, I think about it too. You're amazing. Ha ha. You can be that way. Yeah. So interesting about your opinion. So I think after 2020, for different reasons, I think I've developed like a don't care attitude. Don't care attitude meaning, like, this is what I feel, and you're gonna hear it in the most respectful and polite way. I'm not gonna be horrible to somebody. And maybe it's England, maybe it's a British thing. It's not usually the culture to do that. And when I'm in different spaces, even in my own Black spaces, it's tricky, and I don't think I'm saying anything quite radical. I'm just saying, like, like basic things like, oh, you said you're going to do something in June 2020, and now it's like February, whatever now. I haven't seen you do anything. And it's like radical. It's like, oh, you're stirring the pot. And I'm like, no, I'm not stirring the pot. This is facts. What happened to the Black square? And what are you doing now? Or, or I have this mentality, and I don't know, maybe it's my upbringing. It's like, I don't like, people say, come to the table, like, sit at the table. I'm like, I deserve to be at the table. I'm not going to be asked to come to the table. But sometimes, in my experience, when Black people are around, they're like, oh, Cassandra, no. You're too much. I'm like, I don't even do anything. I'm just like, I'm asking for things. Just like my white counterparts or my white male counterparts would. They're just like, yeah, can I have that, please? Yeah, I would like this to be happening by Tuesday.
Yeah.
But if I do it, some of my Black people is like, oh, you shouldn't be asking too much. I'm like, if I don't ask, I don't get. Closed mouths don't get fed. So I don't know, for you having your strong opinions or just having an opinion, do you get a bit of backlash from your Black counterparts, people who probably don't share the same opinion as you or don't want to voice it openly in public?
So I've had conversations with people who have conflicting opinions, like outside of my podcast, just about like me sharing my ideas on certain things like that. I don't get a lot of backlash, but I welcome it, just because I feel like those conversations I need to have. But I definitely identify with those situations you speak about, because it's like we have a lot of like people surround us, Black people, it's projections. It's like they know someone who's been through a certain thing, and that thing didn't go. Let's say, I'm just giving just a example, just throw this out there. Say someone is at work and maybe they have had a coworker that worked there 2 years ago, and that coworker may have felt like they were disrespected by someone who was higher up, and that coworker voiced their opinion. And from the time they voiced their opinion about how they felt disrespected, their employer made their living situation or their work situation worse than what it was before, to the point to where it made them quit. And so now the other coworker B, that's still there and saw them go through that, they're going to tell the new coworker C, and when they feel disrespected, no, don't do that, because we've seen this play out and it doesn't play out well. But I think that's the power, and going back into the pride of ourselves, is that we had to control our own narrative. So if coworker C feel disrespected just like coworker A did, at least they know what they're up against. Like, you're sharing your projections. You don't want me to speak out about certain things because you don't want me to have the same fate as the other person did. But I don't speak out about it, it's going to let them know that it's okay to continue down this road to this behaviors and treat us a certain way. And so while you may be content with this, I am not going to allow it to stand, because for one, I'm going to create a better situation for me. But there's going to be when they fire me, there's going to be somebody else that's going to come in and they're going to look like me and they're going to go to the same thing. So there's going to be a repeating cycle of this constant behavior of disrespect.
I think I'm just an American trapped in an English body. I'm swear down because, or maybe, I don't know. It's I just find it very frustrating, because it's just like, we don't know each other, but I look at myself, I'm like, am I going through a mental health crisis for real? Because I'm like, I'm not even rude. I'm just saying something which is facts.
Yeah.
And they make you feel like you said something like bad, or you're taking something from them. But when I see my white counterparts, I just like, they do the same thing.
Living a worry-free life. The difference is we go through certain things. It's like we ask for it because we were raised to be polite. But for them, it's like they're demanding, and because like that's what their entire life and that's what their entire history has been, is that they believe they should have something, and so if they believe they should have it, they're going to demand it. There
you go. So it's that mindset. I'm like, why can't I have it too? Equal opportunities. Why can't I not demand, but why can't I just ask for the same things too? So yeah. So sorry, I had to give you that kind of like like therapy session. So I'm just thinking about your content and where you want to take it in the next year. So obviously you talk about obviously whilst recording it's Black History Month. We've got one day left of it. It's in February. So I'm just thinking, how do I say this? So I see what you're doing. Where do you think the next level, or where you want to take your podcast to go? Like, what's the next steps? What do you think is going to be in the future?
I think in the future, I had to expand my brand to introduce it to more people. I think my biggest hump in my podcast and what I speak about is that the majority of my listeners, the majority of my fans are people who are aligned with the certain values that I aligned in. But I think because of the topics that I speak about, it needs to expand wider than that. Because yes, I'm grateful for the people that tune in and listen to what I speak about, but these conversations need to be heard by people who don't think like me or don't care about the topics that I'm thinking about. And so I think that one thing that I'm working on just for my next level is just really improving my marketing so that I can have more of a broad range of people who I'm touching. Maybe they won't engage with the podcast, but at least I'm putting these topics and putting these conversations in certain people's face, because if I can make them feel uncomfortable, then I've done my job. And so I think up to this point, I've done a great job in speaking about what I want to speak about and garnering attention from people who feel the same way as I feel about. But I think that if I want to continue this platform and what I started and what I built it from, I have to put this in the face of people who don't want to hear it.
So are you saying like I don't want to use it, this is the only person I can think of who's American. So like Candace Owens, like she's very like provocative, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you like her politics or not, but she goes on a lot of panels, she purposely puts herself in the opposition. She clickbaits a lot with a lot of celebrities. I'm not saying you should do that, but are you seeing yourself as like doing more like collaborations and going to more panels, so you don't be in these echo chambers where you're like, yeah, I know racism sucks, yeah, we know. Are you gonna go? I'm not saying you do that, I was being very facetious.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Saying, like, is that your next kind of moves?
Yeah, definitely. I have to put the brand, I have to put the podcast out into those spaces. I have to make myself more known, so that more people have an idea of what this is. I think that I have to do things like this, collaborate with other podcasts, or go be guests on other podcasts, because there may be some people, even people who may look like me and may align with values that I have, but haven't been introduced to this podcast because it's just not in their interest. Speaking about me going back into inspiring, I think the more that I share these stories, it inspires people to speak about or share their opinions about things like this as well. And I've seen it a lot just with people who follow the podcast on Instagram and things like that. The things that they have spoken about since they've become listeners of the podcast or become fan of the podcast, I've seen a shift in what people choose to broadcast over their social media handle. So to get back to your question, that's definitely what a part of that next step is making sure that, you know, I'm collaborating with other people, make sure that I'm in spaces where I haven't been seen previously, so that I can continue to get out this word.
Understood. So do you have a bit of a personal question, but don't mind being liked? Do you want to be liked? Do you mind not liked? Because I feel like having an opinion, and when you talk about these subjects, for me, my personal experience might be different. I'm in the UK, but people tend not to like you more because you're revealing truths. You're making people unintentionally uncomfortable, because we know the elephant in the room, but you're revealing the elephant.
I don't mind being liked. I haven't been really in situations to where it's like overtly like, oh, you're not liked, you're shunned, whatever the case may be. But I welcome that, because like I'm an introvert. So like I spend a lot of my time by myself and just like with my own thoughts and things like that. So it's like I don't find myself in too many situations to where like I'm uncomfortable, or I don't find myself in situations where I just don't want to be in. And so because of that, I welcome the idea of not being liked, but at least you're hearing what I'm speaking about. You can like me, you can not like me personally, you not like me about what I'm speaking about, but as long as you are hearing, as long as these words are getting across and coming through your ears, then that's fine. I welcome that, but the main thing that I welcome is just conversation. It don't have to be arguments, it don't have to be fights, it don't have to be anything like that. But if you feel strongly against something that I'm speaking about, then let me know, because I'm going to let you know why I feel so strongly about it. Like I'm not just speaking just to speak. Like if I'm speaking and I have an hour-long podcast, I obviously, you know, feel some way about something, because no one's not going to sit here and talk for a whole hour about something that they don't care about. So if you feel, you know, opposite, and you're not aligned with my views or my values, then let me know, because I want to let you know why I feel a certain way and what I feel like you're missing in what I'm speaking about.
So what I'm hearing is about that openness, that willingness to debate and to have that critical thinking, because I feel like with social media and all this stuff, it's just like, it's like who shouts the loudest. And just because you shout the loudest or you have a following doesn't mean the value of what you say, no matter what part of the debate you are, it's going to be helpful. Okay. But I feel like we're living in a very post-truth or post-debate world. So how do we get back to that? How do we get back to like really having that critical thinking?
It's so hard. Speaking about social media, I think everything that I don't want to say everything, but I feel like the majority of things we see nowadays that's fed to us is tailored. It's either tailored or it's doctored. And what I mean by that is like it's scripted, but they try to make it seem like it's not scripted, or it's doctored in the sense of you can speak about this, but don't speak about this specific thing, because you're going to rile up some people who we don't want you to be riled up. So I don't know if we will ever get back and to the sense of, you know, where people are debating or having healthy conversations about important topics. But I think that there are a few people out there who want to engage in those healthy conversations, want to engage and want to share their experience and hear someone else's experience about certain things, because it's needed despite everything that we see. But I feel like the majority of things we see on Instagram, especially like videos and reels, like those things are a lot of people's social media influencers are actors. And so we have to take it with a grain of salt of everything that we see on social media, because it's like someone spent a day, 2 days, 3 days really preparing this for you all to see. But I think if we see more authentic conversations, we see more authentic debates, whatever the case it may be, it will garner some type of attention of something that's really authentic. So we don't see too much authentic now in the age of social media.
I hear you. So I'm hearing about more, where you want to take the podcast to the next level and telling your stories and your take on things. I was just thinking about brands. Have you been contacted by brands, or are you welcome to working with brands, and how? Because sometimes brands can be, oh, here is a black audience, want to talk to this black audience.
Yeah.
Let me just buy this person, give them some free gifting, and because black people make things cool.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. And so what's your opinion with your podcast working with brands or in the future?
I think it's hard. So on one end, working with brands, collaborations and things like that, it's great. It's like now I have more exposure than I had a day ago because I have this machine behind me that's willing to push my podcast out to the people. But then again, everything has its pros and its cons. So it's like, yeah, I'm garnering more attention, I'm garnering more listeners and followers, whatever the case it may be. But at the same time, I'm aligning myself with this company who probably don't actually care about me. So it's just like you have to, I guess you really just have to have that internal conflict, internal dilemma of like, how much can you take without losing yourself? And what I mean by that is just like, do you partner with a brand who had history with racism in the workplace and mistreating people of color within the workplace and things like that? And can you still accept, to work with them? And so I think my main idea or my main dilemma and even incorporating things with brands is me just figuring out their history. Like, okay, you want to work with me, you want to collaborate with me, but what do people who work like you say about you? Like, do you treat them well? Do you treat the employees equally? Have you had any strikes because of you mistreated employees and things like that? So it's mainly just me just like delving into these brands' history just to find out how authentic they actually are. Because that's the main thing is like, there are some brands out there that are genuine and want to support and want to back Black communities. And there's way more who aren't. And they just want to do something so that they have these stories written about them, like X company shared certain amount of dollars and put certain amount of dollars behind this Black company. And they're just doing it to have that headline rather than actually caring about it. So I think I think the main reason or how I differentiate the two is just having those conversations whenever someone wants to collaborate with me, just to find out who they actually are. And you never actually really know, but I think that if there's some type of understanding and I understand who you are, I have a better sense of whether or not I want to work with you.
Understood. You're really into doing that research and that transparency. That is key to build those relationships. I hear you. So I think usually I ask what do people say about your podcast, but you already said that already. And you get people to do reviews. You know how hard it is for someone to go on Apple or whatever and say, so congrats to you, because I've been doing it for a long time and people just, I like that they tell me in the DMs, they're like, DM's nice, but transfer that. Yes. So I'm on and doing that type of thing. So I was gonna ask you what do people say, but you've kind of mentioned it. But is there anything which I should have asked you, or anything that you would like to say? I feel like I'm missing something. Or maybe
I feel like we covered a lot. You definitely asked all the right questions. If anyone never heard of Speak My Peace podcast prior to this episode, I think that they got a lot of background on the Speak My Peace podcast to this day. I think the only question that you didn't ask in this, but I know we asked prior to starting this, was just the start and what made me start the podcast.
Yeah, that's I'm doing it backwards. Speak my piece, but at the end. Sorry.
No problem. So honestly, the origination of this podcast. So I'm a big fan of music. I love music, especially rap music and things like that. While I was in school, I had a summer to where I was normally taking summer classes, and I had a summer where I wasn't taking summer class. So I couldn't take a summer class because I couldn't get the class that I wanted. So I had a lot of idle time. And this is around the time a lot of things were going on and I want to speak about things. And this is me not having an outlet. So I had this dilemma. I was like, all right, I have 3 months. I'm not working. I don't have any school. What am I going to do in these 3 months? And so the two things that came to my head was rapping or podcasting. The only reason why podcasting came to my head is because I was listening to a lot of podcasts at that time. I think I had just discovered podcasts that summer. And so it was like, either I'm going to rap or I'm going to podcast to get these things out of my head. I did not choose to go with rap because I feel like I'm a perfectionist. And so it's going to be hard to like trying to make a song and then be content with the song that I'm making and put that out to the world. So like, okay, rapping is not happening. let me try podcasts. And so originally started the podcast just to speak about things going on in the world, speak about sports, speak about music. And I think as the podcast grew, I started to gain a lot of traction when I started to speak about those topics that are pertaining specifically to Black people. And so that really is what compelled me to keep going and continue to speak about those topics, because of the interaction I was getting from speaking about those topics. And so I was really just starting just like as a hobby for the past time. And then I started to really feel like it was therapeutic, because I was releasing things that I was keeping in and balling up for so long, but also I was getting a lot of great responses from the things that I was sharing, people that felt the same way as me, and people that love what I was speaking about, because, you know, they want to speak about it or haven't been able to speak about. And so from there, I just really continued to grow. I was like, okay, this is something that I could continue to speak about, or this is something I continue to grow upon. And so honestly, the Speak on Peace podcast started as just as a hobby, and then it grew into something more as I started to speak about the things that I really cared about.
See? When you believe, you succeed. So there you go. So thank
Yes.
you for that. So we talked about your podcast. It's going to be in the show notes, but how do we connect with you for the audio, for the visuals? How do we connect with you?
So if you want to connect with me, first thing I want to say is follow me on Instagram at Speak My Peace Pod. That is Speak My Peace Pod, POD. If you want to watch visual episodes, everything from season 4 to season 5, what I'm currently in, they're on YouTube at Speak My Peace TV. And then for everything else, if you just one of the people who listen to podcasts and only listen to audio, definitely search Speak My Peace Podcast on whatever medium you decide to listen to podcasts, and you will find me there. I am your host again, Greg Lacy, and you should be able to find me. But those are the best ways to get in contact with me.
Oh, thank you. Well, you said it's short and sweet. There's nothing else to say, but this is the Black Creative Handbook. Thank you very much. Thank you, Greg, and speak soon.